This is Lightning Power Lunch, presented by Reef Rum on the Lightning Audio Network with Dave Mishkin and Greg Linnelli.
Taking to James, feeds it up the middle, Bjorkstrand, a step across the blue-line circle, shoots, save made, rebound, loose in front, James, shoots, score! Dominic James, his first NHL goal! His first 2 points have come in the opening 3:28 of the second period, and the Lightning have tied it at 2.
What a game for that young man. Been waiting for that one. We are taping right after the game. My partner, Dave Mishkin, who just called the game.
Yes.
By the time
a happy final 40 minutes for the Lightning. That thing was looking ugly after the first 20 minutes, wasn't it?
It really was. And, you and I were talking about it on the post-game show that, 2-0 could have been worse, maybe. And, without
could have been worse.
Vasi was really good. And, that's kind of what your star players do. We always talk about it in the terms of scoring partner and offense and leading the way, and we'll get to that obviously tonight. But also your goaltender. I mean, your goaltender, sometimes they can play well, and it's not their fault. They're giving up some goals because they're not getting a ton of help. And I'm not saying that was necessarily the case tonight, but they weren't as tight defensively as you liked them to see in the first period.
In the first period.
Yeah, in the first period. And they hung in there. Vasi did. And he gave his team a chance to kind of battle back for the next 40. And that's what they ended up doing, picking up 2 big points against a good Vegas team.
Yeah, and I'm just going to say it. The Lightning saw an extraordinary performance from Carl Lindbaum in the first meeting, which was his first NHL start. I don't know that I would blame him on any of the 5 goals the Lightning scored against him, but he was not able to give Vegas the kinds of saves that Vasilevsky gave the Lightning.
Right, that's fair.
And look, it's his third NHL start, so it's interesting they didn't play Akira Schmidt, who is, I think he's only lost 1 game in regulation all year. He had a great start. But they went back with Lindbaum, who played very well against the Lightning in the first meeting. And when the Lightning got scoring chances, they were able to bury more of them, certainly, in the second meeting.
And, why don't we get to the full analysis of the game, and there may be some questions that trickle, and we got some after.
Well, we could probably spend the full 60 minutes going. I'm still writing my post game. I got back to the hotel. Yours wasn't just the last. Yours was the extended last call. I'm like, are they done yet? Goodness, I've almost written this whole thing, and it's over a page already.
Listen, Eric.
There was a lot to unpack. Yes,
no, it does. What did you see in that first period? Because it wasn't pretty. And what was their first shot on goal was what? 4.5 minutes good to go. And
they missed the net and some of their attempts got blocked. What I saw was a team that, I don't know if it was this because they rebounded.
Yeah.
A team that looked like they got into Vegas at 2:30 in the morning 2 nights earlier. Now, it was 2 nights earlier. And we mentioned the tough beginning of practice yesterday, where I said they did get in at 2:30 by get in I mean like get to the hotel at 2:30 in the morning Vegas time. That is 5:30 in the morning Eastern time. We are not that far removed from being on East Coast time.
Yeah, right.
And I think John Cooper, he met with, when I say the media, I think he met with Gabby this morning. But I saw a quote where he said he acknowledged that it was a weird travel sequence, and we got in late, early, however you want to look at it, after the Colorado game. So Tuesday night, Wednesday morning, and he attributed maybe the beginning of practice to that, and he said, it was a good practice. To me, it looked like that might have been at least a factor, because the Lightning looked so out of sync. We haven't seen them struggle with their execution like that since early in the season. And Coop even said we didn't execute well in Denver. I will just say this. Coop was not happy with their game in Colorado. I mean, we didn't really hear from him much after the game, but you could tell he was not happy. And he said, we didn't execute. So their execution of the first period in Vegas was worse than what we saw in Colorado.
Yeah.
That might have been their worst period of the season. And they had some doozies early in the year where they went long stretches without a shot on net. maybe I'm not remembering some of those other periods as well. But it wasn't only that, like, they couldn't make a tape-to-tape pass out of the defensive zone. They were fighting the puck all over the ice, and Vegas wasn't. Vegas was on it. Vegas was disrupting plays, sticks in lanes, blocking shots. But it wasn't only the Lightning were having trouble with the puck. They were giving up wide open chances in the defensive zone. And you heard the interview, I know you did. I don't know if the fans did, but I had Dan Highnote on after the first period. I basically asked him 2 questions. I'm like, what's going on defensively and what's going on offensively? I was basically like, how can you fix it? And he's like, we look like we're playing the first game of the year defensively, which is fair. So Vegas had 2 goals, 15 shots, only 22 chances, only 22 attempts. But of their 15 shots on net, I mean, there may have been 10 scoring chances in there of varying degrees. So the Lightning just couldn't get it going. And the line that we've been, really praising with good reason, they had a tough night last night. Gord and Holmberg and Gergensons were out on the ice for the first 2 goals against. And I think that Yanni finished -3, as did Holmberg. Gergensons finished -1. So he may have been out on the ice for one of the goals 4. Yeah. Maybe he wasn't out on the ice for the third period goal. I'm just checking. Yeah, he wasn't. So the first goal against was an unforced icing by the Lightning. Gord missed a teammate on a pass. I think it was Gergensons, and the puck went down the ice. So you got a defensive zone faceoff, and Eichel wins the faceoff from Gord. They work it around. Hanifin takes a shot. I'm not sure if Vasi could have done more with that first shot. It looked like it was a pretty tough save. I mean, it was going far post. He got a piece of it with his glove.
Right.
And the Lightning lost coverage on Barbashev, and he got open. He had a tough angle, but he can finish, this guy. So he did. 1-0. The second goal was a rush coverage problem. Marner and Eichel do have chemistry. They have not played together on the same line all year, but they were together last night, and they had a lot going when they had the puck in the offensive zone. Marner's such a smart player. He takes it almost to the goal line extended, throws it into the middle. The Lightning were coming back hard in the back check, and Barbashev is also a smart player. If you watch the replay, Holmberg is there, but Barbashev kind of jukes to the middle, and I think he surprised Holmberg that he went to an area where Holmberg wasn't expecting him to go, and he got open. And Vasi got a piece of it, but it just rolled across the goal line. Right. So it's 2-0, but I mean, if the game hadn't changed, that game could have been 6-7-0 by the end of the game. So how did the Lightning turn it around? I didn't actually feel they turned it around right away in the second period, even though they tied the game very early in the second, because the one line that they had going was, at least at the beginning of the second period, the only line they had going.
Yeah.
But that line was going. James, Bjorkstrand, Goncalves. We talked about the Gord line in the Colorado game. That was the one line that was really going for the Lightning. The James line pulled the Lightning into the fight, you want to say, or just like back to competency. Like they were not competent playing the puck, honestly, in the first period. And the James line willed the rest of the team to a higher standard. So the first goal, Bjorkstrand doesn't get a point, but he has his fingerprints all over this goal. Because I think he breaks up the play in the defensive zone, forces it in deep, and then gets in on Hanifin. Hanifin is under pressure. Hanifin maybe is their best defensive defenseman. He doesn't make a lot of mistakes. He made a mistake. He felt the pressure from Bjorkstrand. He fumbles the puck behind the net. James has the puck come to him. I heard Eric talk about this on the intermission. No hesitation. Goncalves is open. But if James stops the puck, polishes it off, the opportunity is lost. James doesn't do that. Boom, right on Goncalves' stick. Boom, top of the net. It was like that. And that was not what we were seeing from the Lightning in the first period. They couldn't execute plays like that, but James did. So now it's 2-1. The next couple of shifts were not great for the Lightning. I don't know. Vegas only had 4 second-period shots. I think 2 or 3 of them came in the opening minutes of the period. But it stayed 2-1. And then the next time James's line comes on the ice, they get the game tied. This time, Moser passes it forward. It hits Bjorkstrand and bounces forward. And Bjorkstrand is after that puck. He gets to it first. I think the defenseman was Lausanne. I'm going to check and see who was on the ice for, well, I'll look at that later. Anyway, whoever the defenseman was couldn't get to Bjorkstrand. Bjorkstrand gets almost to the side of the net, jams a shot on net. Lindbaugh makes a save, but cannot stop the puck and cover it. He stops the puck. There's a rebound, and he is out of position. Goncalves looks like he has an open net, but his stick gets lifted. So instead of him finishing, it slides back, but James is there. James goes to the front of the net. Oh, look what I found puck. He's got an open 4x6. He slams it in. He is not going to miss that. He's been so unlucky in his first 7 games. He saw that gaping wide open net. He was putting that in. So good for him. He has a goal and an assist, his first 2 points in the NHL in the opening, whatever it was, 3.5 minutes of the second period. That helped the Lightning still. But I actually thought that they really got going when they got their 2 second period power plays. So this is a very important storyline in the game.
For sure.
We've talked about how the Lightning's power play has struggled. It has struggled. It has struggled to generate pressure. It has struggled to generate shots, scoring chances, and goals, certainly. So they get their second period power play early in the power play. And this is the power play that we've seen with Hagel out there and Hedman with the 3 other guys. Kucherov's on the left. Early in that power play, Kucherov just shoots the puck. I mean, it wasn't a great scoring chance, but I don't know if Vegas was surprised that he shot the puck. Lindbaugh made the save and covered. But it seemed like that helped them. Later in the power play, Kucherov does get a seam pass across to Hagel. Lindbaugh makes a very good save on Hagel. So the Lightning didn't score in the power play, but there was some activity. They had 3 shots on that power play. There was a 3rd shot. The second power play happened shortly thereafter. They had 4 shots on that power play. It was actually the second unit that did a little bit more. Bjorkstrand started it with a shot from the right side, and then there was a scramble play. Lindbaum had to make some saves there. So the power play didn't score, but I thought it helped the Lightning get their game in gear even more. I thought they had a strong finish to the second period. I mean, the shots in the first period were 15-3 Vegas. The shots in the second period were 15-4 Lightning. So that tells you it was almost a mirror image. So we go into the third period. Cirelli gets hurt. It almost sounds like he may have been dealing with something. Rob Zettler met with the media afterward, and he's like, hopefully he'll be ready for Saturday. But he couldn't finish the second period. He's not available to start the third. So I don't know if this was part of the reason why the Lightning switched up their power play. They got an early third period power play because Vegas was called for too many men on the ice. It was the loose puck in between the benches. Vegas was making a change. Somebody must have jumped on and tried to play the puck. They had 6 guys on the ice at that time, so they called the penalty. The Lightning completely revamped their power play. So the one thing they did is they replaced Hagel with Bjorkstrand, which we had talked about as like, what would you do?
Yeah.
I'm like, Kucherov likes being on the right. If Bjorkstrand is out on the ice, he's going to be on the right. The other thing they did is they replaced Hedman with Radish. Radish is in the lineup because Crozier was not in the lineup, basically. Destu is quarterback the second unit, but Radish is a righty. So putting Radish out there for Hedman, they had 3 righties. And it was like the power play just snapped into place. I think I said in the postgame, Greg, Kucherov looked like a kid who just woke up on Christmas morning that he was back at that right circle, and he was dealing. They had that unit out for the full 2 minutes. They gave up a 2-on-1 shorthanded rush to Marner and Eichel. They got back defensively. Once they brought it back in, like Vegas was having trouble. Remember I was talking about, like, you want to make the penalty kill uncomfortable. Vegas's penalty kill during that third power play was very uncomfortable. That's why the Lightning kept that unit out there for the full 2 minutes. The power play is ending. Gensel wins a loose puck, maneuvers it to Bjorkstrand. He wires it cross ice to Kucherov. Lindbaum can't get over. Kucherov shoots it in. It's an even strength goal because the penalty had ended 1 second earlier. But that essentially was a power play goal. Lightning have their first lead. They give it right back. Eichel makes a great play. Makes a great play. Like, he enters the offensive zone. He gives himself room. He shoots from an angle There's a Vasi save, but that shot there is going to lead to a rebound. It comes to Marner. He risks it at the net. It hits Hedman's stick and deflects in. Bad luck. But look, they're skilled players. They made a play. So they answer in the next shift. It's 3-3. Lightning come right back. What was it? 35 seconds later. James. So they had James, Goncalves, and Hagel because they didn't have Sorelli. So they mixed things up a little bit. Bjorkstrand was moved around a little bit. Hagel is out with Goncalves and James. They forecheck. They force a steal. James throws it from the top of the right circle in front. It gets past Saad. Hagel wins it, turns, snaps it in. Lindbaum cannot make the save on it. That was one of those plays I was talking about. It was a good shot. Maybe the game in Tampa, Lindbaum makes that save. He doesn't. Now it's 4-3. More drama. Vasi gets called for a high stick double minor. Vegas hasn't had a power play the entire game. Now they get 4 minutes. We're shy of the halfway mark. They could have scored 2 power play goals there. They had back-to-back power plays. Could have been 4-4, could have been 5-4 Vegas. Lightning kill off the 4 minutes without much possession. They got absolutely killed in the faceoff circle during that 4-minute power play, and there were a lot of faceoffs. They kill it off, and after the second penalty ends, Kucherov was in the box. I have the play-by-play here, Greg. I'm going to read this to you because I looked it up. So once Kucherov comes out of the box, Vegas continues to put pressure on. So where's the power play end? So there's a final face-off with 11:11 left. Vegas wins the face-off. The penalty ends. Shot Vegas, 10:54. Shot Vegas, 10:49. Vegas shot block, 10:38. Vegas shot block, 10:34. Shot Vegas, 10:28. Shot blocked. Vegas shot block, 10:22. Shot Vegas, 10:17. So in that shift after the power play ended, Vegas had 4 shots on net and 3 others blocked. I mean, that was just the Lightning were completely under siege and Vasi stood tall. So the Lightning get through that penalty kill, and they get a power play. Same units out there as we scored with the even strength, and Kucherov shoots it in. 5-3. Lightning get through one more kill. They did a better job on that late kill, and then they get the empty netter from Hagel. So there was just a lot happening in this game. It was all kinds of twists and turns. I talked a lot. I will punt to you, but I mean everything from the James line to Vasi's performance to the power play coming alive, switching things up. It is a bold move to pull Victor Hedman off the first unit. But John Cooper did it, and in retrospect, it was the right move. And again, the only reason that Radish is in the game, I'm guessing, is because Crozier got hurt in practice yesterday. But he's available. He can play in the power play. And it clicked. It was one of Bjorkstrand's best offensive games of the season too, which really helped 5-on-5 and on the 2 power plays that led to goals in the third period.
On James's goal, I mean, he didn't quit. He kept whacking, and that allowed the goal.
I just want to mention because I didn't. So the Lightning actually made a change on the Kucherov power play goal. Kucherov stayed out there. Hagel and Hedman came out, so they actually got assists on the power play goal. But the power play started with Bjorkstrand and Radish, and the Lightning were dangerous. But as we got into the second minute, they made a change, and so Hedman and Hagel got assists. But Kucherov shot the puck, and he was on the right side. Sorry, go ahead.
The thing about it is with Hedman, I mean, we've kind of talking about, it just hasn't been clicking, and, maybe tonight was a microcosm of that. John Cooper had to make a small or subtle decision to move him off of the first unit, and at some point, you keep saying that Heddy's going to figure it out, and I think that's true. I think that will happen, but right now it's just not, and you have options until he figures out his game. The James situation, we were talking about it in the pregame and the intermissions about, hey, could this be a guy that gets the Lightning going after that first period? And lo and behold, he did. And we took this question a lot about Nick Paul when he comes back, partner, and where's James going to slot in? We don't know, but what we do know is he's staying in the lineup. I mean, And great to see Goncalves get a goal because I think he was one of those guys. We start talking about like when Paul comes back and what their lineup looks like. James isn't coming out. So who would potentially if you wanted to go with a lineup that was different? And Goncalves maybe was one of those guys that you're like, all right, I need to see you do something here. You need to start putting up some points, if you're going to be playing in a top 6 role to a degree. And I think that was a big goal.
You've called Goncalves a playmaker, and look, when he was leading Syracuse in scoring
I think that's
a couple
what
years
he
ago,
is.
he was an assist machine. But he can shoot. I mean, you saw him finish that shot on the goal he scored. We saw it some last year when he was really playing well in the second half of the year. I'd love to see him shoot.
He just doesn't
more.
do it enough.
Yeah,
I think is probably what we would like to see. So I think. And then Rob Zettler talked about, look, you beat Vegas twice. I mean, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
I mean, they're a good team. Are they on the same level as Colorado? Probably not.
They want to get there.
But that's a good team.
If
So it's a
Stone
playoff
comes
team.
back healthy, that really helps them. And
sure.
Hannafin's a terrific player. You think about the game that the teams played in Tampa, I kind of felt like, and I don't mean any disrespect to Vegas, but like they had Theodore and McNabb playing together, and once those guys went off the ice, the Lightning kind of had their – I mean, they controlled the game, but they really controlled the game once the top 2 defensemen went off the ice for Vegas. You slot Hannafin in with White Cloud, who is a good defenseman, but I think when you have a partner like Hannafin, he becomes an even better defenseman. That really, it makes such a huge difference to have him in there, and he's working his way back from injury. So,
yeah, I mean, you're right. I think when that team is fully healthy, does that ever happen? Who knows? But
Aiden Hill has been out too. So,
regardless,
but the Lightning they don't have to apologize for seeing Vegas when they're missing some of these guys.
No, that's a good win and more points than games played on this trip.
Yeah,
that's what you're going to take. And how big was that win? The first one of the road trip too. You kind of set yourself up where if you did lose that game in Colorado, okay, you still had this important game circled a little bit to say, all right, if we win this, it's a good road trip.
Yeah.
And now we come back against Washington. So
Lightning have done well in the third period during the win streak, we'll say, 6 out of 7. I mean, they got a goal in the loss at Colorado in the third period. That wasn't enough for them. But, you think about they haven't allowed, when they've had a lead going into the third period and they've lost the lead, they haven't allowed the other team to grab the lead. It stayed tied, and
that's fair.
Either they retook the lead or they won in overtime. And on this road trip specifically, they surrendered a 1-goal lead in the third period in Utah, but then they retook the lead, and they held it. And in this game, it was tied going into the third. They grabbed the lead. They lost the lead. They got it back. And then a little bit by hook or by crook because they had to lean on their penalty kill and Vasi. The Lightning were better defensively in the final 40 minutes, but they weren't perfect defensively. I mean, Vegas had some chances for sure in the third period to tie the game or make it 5-4 after Kucherov scored in the power play to make it 5-3. And, Vasi shut them down.
Yeah. I mean, goaltending's been good this year. I mean, it's been above average.
Yeah.
And this was another one of those situations where you get through that first period only trailing by 2. If you're Vegas, you're probably feeling like, you know what, did we not put them away?
Yeah.
And I know there's a lot of hockey to be played, but you wonder, looking back on it, is that kind of how it played out?
Momentum's a funny thing in hockey.
It really is. Let's get some questions because we have some coming in. George, he took our advice, partner. He was like, you know what?
He stayed up late and gave us a question.
I'm going to get some questions. Yeah, he said, first off, congratulations to James on both his first NHL point and goal. Also, do you think that Gonzo listened to the show before the game last night? From the second period on, he was playing with so much confidence. Well, he should be listening to this.
Yeah. I don't know that he listened to that. Did we say something about him on the show? I don't know if we did.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe, I know I've said I'd like to see more because I think this is part of we were talking about the lineup and with Paul coming back, and it's like, okay, so
Yeah.
realistically, who are you going to sit? Because the fourth line's been playing well. James is going to stay in the lineup. You're not going to touch really any of your go-to guys, on the first and second lines. And so, it kind of falls on Gonzo a little bit to figure it out. And we saw what he did the second half of last year, which was great. But I think it's a situation where that competition needs to push him to another level, and it was good to see him get a goal.
Yeah.
I don't know if he listens to the show or not. It is.
I just want to mention, we're going to have to check on the Cirelli situation. I mean, we're not going to have a show before the Lightning's next game, Saturday against Washington. But if Cirelli cannot play, that is an opening for Finley to come in. Because you're missing a centerman who's a penalty killer. So I know you were talking about Finley, like the right-handed centerman. And, like, if you're missing a centerman who does a lot of the things that, you want Finley to do, but we'll see. I mean, it sounded like, should I use the word hopeful? I mean, Zettler's quote made it seem like, we'll see if Cirelli's ready to go Saturday. So it didn't sound like it was a major issue.
I mean, he's been their best goal scorer early on this season. I mean, he's been sniping it pretty good. And he just does a lot of good things for you, so you want to hope he's okay. Cat Brown says via email, that third period is what we want to see more of. And I have a suggestion for a name for the James line. The James Gang. Oh, my. Yes. Oh, yes. Let's go.
Yeah, well, if he has different line mates, it would still work, right?
He's the constant, as they would say.
I wonder if people call him DJ.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
You should ask him. They call you DJ? What do they call you? Kucherov on X. These are great ones. Haven't chimed in yet this season, but the guys in Syracuse are looking great. I think Tampa Bay really needs to find a fit for the Cirelli-Hagel pair. When Paul comes back, my preference is to let him center the third line. Perhaps this will give James a shot at the second. I like that idea.
You have been an advocate for that. I mean, I don't know how much of a difference it actually makes if you're playing center or wing, but there is a difference. And James has excelled. I'll use that word. He has excelled at center.
Yeah.
Now, I talked to him, and I was like, have you played wing? He's like, a little bit in the World Juniors is what he said. But he's like, I can play with Hagel and Cirelli. I mean, he was like, I love to play with Hagel and Cirelli. So he'll go wherever they put him.
His skill set allows him to do this.
Mm-hmm.
He's fast. He's quick. And I think you've talked about this too. His hockey IQ is pretty clear.
Yeah.
He can play with guys, I think, that are in that space. It's not always easy to play with a guy like Kucherov, because he thinks the game differently, and you've got to be in the right place at the right time. I'm not putting James on that level at all. What I'm saying is I think if you put him even with a guy like Kucherov, I don't think he'd be overwhelmed by the moment.
Mm-hmm.
So the positive thing, this is kind of what you want to see happen, though, too, 14, 15 games in, is that if you're breaking in some new players, partner, you want to see them start to settle in and feel like they do belong. And, look, the fourth line feels like that's meshing pretty well. Now I'm really curious to see James's game from here on out, because he was doing a lot of good things to begin with. But this as well as anybody, once you start to score, now you feel like you really belong.
Yeah.
You really do. And what's his game going to look like?
Brian Engblom was saying, he said about Goncalves too, but he said, I really like to see James get a point because he was worried it was going to weigh on him. I'm not sure that his game was affected adversely by not having scored.
Yeah.
But Brian was talking about getting a point. I mean, he broke out with 3 points. 3 points in the game. They were big points.
Huge.
The 2-1 goal, the 2-2 goal, and then, the eventual game winner from Hagel. Those were his points.
On the road against a really good team.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that has to be a confidence booster for sure. And the James gang bringing it together. Let's get to some emails. This is our good friend Jim from Jacksonville, partner. Says, this will be your last show before the Washington game on Saturday night. Your thoughts about the Capitals? Of course, first game after a long road trip with not much time after the Vegas game. I would like to see Finley on Saturday, as he would be more rested than some others. First game back after a long Western trip has always been difficult for the Lightning. Capitals will be on a 4-game road trip. No back-to-back with the Panthers for them, but 5 days apart with a trip to Carolina in between.
Yeah, Jim is always effective at digging deep into the schedule. I
digs.
didn't know that about
like
Washington.
That.
What I did know about Washington, because Ovechkin scored his 900th goal, whatever it was. Today is what? As we're recording, it's Thursday night. So he scored his 900th goal Wednesday at home. They had a back-to-back, not an easy back-to-back. Home Wednesday, at Pittsburgh Thursday. I know it's not a long flight, but they faced a rested Pittsburgh team, and they lost in Pittsburgh. So, yes, the Lightning have to travel cross-country on Friday, today, as fans are hearing us, and it's a quick turnaround. That first home game back after a long road trip, whether you're talking about distance or days, is never easy. So Jim is right. The Caps have a little bit of a break after Saturday, but Saturday will be their third game in 4 nights after a tough back-to-back.
Yeah.
And surprisingly to me, I've said this, they are near the bottom of the Metro standings. I haven't actually looked to see where things are lining up in the Metro, but I know before they beat St. Louis on Wednesday and Ovi scored his 900, they were in last place.
Yeah.
In the Metro. Close to first. I mean, it's really bunched up, but the way that they came out of the gates defending, and as well as they defended against the Lightning in that game between the teams in D.C., which the Lightning lost in overtime, I'm frankly surprised that their record isn't better. So maybe they've hit a speed bump.
Fair.
I don't know.
That's fair.
I like their team. I mean, I think they're very well coached. I think they have a great decor. Their goaltending is excellent, both of them. But they're losing. They're losing games. Since they saw the Lightning, they are losing games. And Pittsburgh continues to, I don't know how closely you're following them. I'm sure you're paying attention to them, but they continue to kind of defy expectations.
Well, they're playing an 18-year-old Kindle who's given them a lot of
first-round pick, right?
Yeah. Crosby and Malkin's playing at a high level. I don't know if that's sustainable. And they brought in some new guys that have given them some juice. Mantha, specifically.
Yeah.
Um,
Lightning will see them, I think, later.
But it's still early.
Is it later this month?
Might be right.
Yeah, later in the month, close to Thanksgiving.
So we're going to give Al a little bit of this. It's probably unfair for me to read this tweet because he sent this
before the game or after the first period?
10:31 a.m. on November 5th.
Oh, okay. So it's a couple of days late.
He goes, as much as I like James, when Paul comes back, it seems logical to send him to Syracuse.
No, Al, that's not happening.
Finley and Douglas are simply placeholders. I like a roster made up of 13 forwards and 8 D. Also, I'm not sure Hedman is 100%.
Well, look, Al has a lot in there. James is not going down.
No.
They may not have to send somebody down, though. I mean, right now we're looking at Cirelli hurt and Crozier hurt. I don't know how badly they're hurt, but they're both hurt. And Paul may not be quite ready to come back. I mean, John Cooper said day-to-day after the trip. Now, the Lightning do have a little bit of a break after the Saturday game because they don't play again, I think, until Wednesday against the Rangers. And then they don't play again until Saturday for the first game between the Lightning and Panthers. So they have a fairly light week. That is good news for the guys who are, like Nick Paul, coming back from injury, and hopefully the guys who are battling something. That didn't really answer Al's question, except to say James is staying.
No, James Gang is staying.
Yes, you like that.
I do like that.
Well, that's the whole line, James Gang.
The James Gang.
Yeah.
I like it. Tampa Bay sports fan, this was a couple of days ago. We didn't get to it. Do you guys think Ergenssons can play a net front checking role on the power play, much like Maroon and Killorn did for the Cup teams? The power play seems like they are trying to catch the goalie guessing and not actually creating space and blind spots for the goalie.
Well, I think the way we look at the power play may change now that they got a little mojo going. That's what we were saying they were missing. I thought they kind of got it with their 2 second period power plays, and we definitely saw it on their third period power plays.
Yeah.
So right now, that seems to be working. I don't know if Radish is going to stay in the top unit. I don't know if Radish is going to stay in the lineup. He's been in and out of the lineup. But if he's in the lineup, you would figure that at the beginning of the next game, they're going to throw out the unit that did well in the third period. Understanding that Hagel and Hedman were out there when Kucherov scored. But It was really the first one in the third period that, like, that was as good as the Lightning's power play has looked for a 2-minute power play in quite some time. I don't know if it's the best that they've performed. I mean, sometimes you do well and you score early in the power play. This one, the 5 guys were out there for the full 2 minutes. They were out there for the full 2 minutes because they were in control of what was happening. It wasn't one of those power plays where they had to, like, go retrieve the puck, bring it back in, pass. Like, they had stuff going. They had Vegas's penalty kill scrambling. So they stayed out there, and they ended up scoring. That's the unit. That's the one I think we're going to see at the start of the next game, assuming that, not really knowing about the lineup, assuming Radish is playing again. And if he is, I would think that they would put him out there again. Because it worked.
The thing about it is, I am going to be fascinated to see and watch, was this just a subtle message on the power play John Cooper sending to Victor Hedman, or is this something that has, a little bit more legs? Because I think, at some point, Hedman's going to look at this and say, okay, what's happening here?
Yeah.
I like, even if he didn't think he was playing poorly, clearly somebody thought you're not playing to your level. Okay, now it's for real. And we saw this a little bit when Sergachev was here, correct? Where Sergachev would go on the first power play unit.
Yeah.
And so,
there was that year, I'll say now 3 years ago. So last year Sergachev wasn't on the team. The year before, correct, Sergachev was on the team and got moved to the second power play unit and then was injured the second half of the year. It was the year before. Sergachev had a terrific offensive season, playing a lot in the first power play.
Yeah.
And Hedman was bumped to the second power play. What Radish did on that third power play, the one in which Kucherov scored a second after the power play ended, he was looking to shoot. I'm going to see if I can find the play-by-play and see how many shot attempts he had. So on that power play, Point had a shot that was blocked, that was down low. Kucherov had a shot on net, save. Radish had a shot on net. Radish had a shot blocked. Bjorkstrand had a shot blocked. And then that was right before the goal. So, I mean, those are a fair number of shot attempts, and Radish had 2 of them. That's what we've been talking about, right? Look to get pucks in the net.
Yeah.
That was part of why that particular power play did so well.
For Hetty, this would be a little bit of a wake-up call, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And I think for him, because you're not taking him out of the lineup, you're not going to put him on the third deep pair, but where you can get his attention, I think, is taking him off the first power play unit, because you can send a message saying, "Look, we need more from you."
Yeah,
we just do. Not the first time. A couple of days ago, this was from Anthony talking about the power play partner. Anthony always has some strong words for the power play. Said, back to square one on the power play, still waiting for my call. They're doing everything except the right thing, same as last year. Keep standing to the side of the goalie, making sure he sees every release and pass clear as day. No backdoor options. I'm losing faith.
Well, look, the Lightning setup on the power play has worked well up until this year.
Yeah.
This year it hasn't. But I think what we felt was it was less about where players were on the ice and more about how they were moving the puck around. Anthony disagrees, and that's totally fine. Anthony wants to see a power play where the goalie is screened and there's a lot of traffic in front. I mean, look, when Radish was shooting the puck in the middle of the ice, there was a guy in front. It was Point.
Sure.
He was maybe a little higher up, but
I think you always have to ask yourself, too, what are your legitimate options? We just had somebody tweet about, Gergensons. But you've got to be able to do more than just stand in front of the net. I know Douglas in front of the net, a lot of people have maybe hinted at seeing him a little bit more, but there's more to it than just get your body in front. I mean, I get it.
Who are the other players that fan mentioned? Like Pat Maroon has scored. I mean, what was his high watermark for goals in a season? He was playing with McDavid. I think he had almost 30 goals.
I was going to say, I think he hit like 29 the 1 year.
And was the other guy Killorn? I mean, Alex Killorn scored a lot of goals in his career. So you're right. You can't just be a big guy who stands in front of the net. You got to have some. I think you have to have a track record of having scored goals.
Did we have fun with that question when I asked you the best Ivy League player of this generation? I might have been on the.
Yeah, we did have fun with that question.
Yeah.
Well, we talked about Killorn.
Yeah, I think he, at this point.
Somebody mentioned Adam Fox.
Yeah.
Who may.
He may, but I mean, honestly,
it
just kind of sticks out. I mean, Killorn's a really good player, but that was, look, the knock on Killorn for a lot of people was you had to stay on your skates a little bit because they felt like he was falling too much. But I think you have to understand who your personnel is, and then I think you have to have the conversation legitimately of who can play on the power play, and are you just doing a plug-and-play approach and saying, he's big, you stay in front of the net, I mean, it doesn't work that way all the time.
Well, what I would say is tap the brakes on trying to reinvent the wheel here. And the Lightning, like I said, they weren't standing pat. They were trying different things. But I think based on what we saw in this game, I think the unit that we saw in the third period has earned the opportunity to get another look in the next game. I mean, Radish's line is pretty interesting. He only played 7 minutes and 53 seconds.
He didn't play
but he
that
had
much.
255 on the power play, and most of that came in the third period. In fact, all of it came in the third period because Destu was on the second unit in the second period.
Is he the power play specialist, who just comes in and...
Well, they had 7 defensemen. He only played 458 even strength.
I think it is a fair question because I do think when you look at the totality of the back end, it feels like that Radish is the one who's a little bit of the odd man out. And even tonight, getting into the lineup, he didn't play that much.
Yeah.
He's a veteran defenseman. But I want to say that's probably more about the players that have jumped over him and how well they've done and looked than it is about his performance.
Yeah,
I like Radish as a defenseman. We can have a nice debate if you think he's a bottom D pair defenseman, that's fine. Or if you think he's your 7th defenseman, he's an NHL defenseman.
And he can score. I mean, he can shoot, he can score.
Got a big shot, for sure.
Remember last year he was at the left circle? I mean, I think he played that in junior at one point. That is a big difference than shooting from the middle of the ice.
Yeah.
Your target is much more narrow.
It is.
And for what it's worth, whether it's Radish or Crozier down the road, and the Lightning don't have a lot of right-handed options for D, Chernek's the other, and he doesn't usually play power play. But having a righty as the defenseman does mean that pass from Kucherov could be a one-timer. You have to open up to give the puck to Kucherov for a Kucherov one-timer, which Hedman doesn't. Hedman can almost fake a shot and sweep it to Kucherov. If you're a righty, you kind of have to. It's harder to sell the shot and then pass to Kucherov. But a Kucherov pass to the point could be a one-timer with a righty.
Right.
And I don't know if either of those Radish shots were one-timers, but I mean, he got the puck and he was looking to get it to the net. Yeah. I think it helped.
It's just, this is the part when you have a lot of depth, this is what can happen. Mm-hmm. Guys who have been somewhat established the last couple of years are going to find themselves in a position where they're fighting for an opportunity. This is why I said, like, when people start talking about the rosters and what's it going to look like, you made a good point about we have no idea what the rosters are going to look like from game to game because you're going to be dealing with injuries, and that is so true. The other thing is when you have a player like this, options to be sent down factor in. And so what do you end up doing when you have players who hold some value but aren't necessarily in the lineup, and maybe you don't want to send them down because they'll get claimed, or maybe you feel like you got to clear some space by making a trade. I mean, these are all of the things that go into those decisions. Radish is a lot like Perbix in a way. Not the same skill set, but just they're serviceable defensemen.
Yeah.
In the National Hockey League. You can never have enough of those guys, partner. And that's a luxury that John Cooper does have. It will be interesting to see, again, assuming who's healthy, who's not, for Saturday's game, what that looks like lineup-wise. It's interesting looking at the standings. I haven't done this in a while. My feeling on the standings. The Bruins quietly have won 5 in a row.
Yeah, they've been a streaky team this year.
They have.
I think at one point they lost 6 in a row in regulation, starting with
they're
the
a
loss to
minus.
the Lightning.
They're a -1 in the goal differential department, which is
they
pretty
won some
interesting.
close games. They beat Ottawa last night
Yeah.
in overtime, I think.
But with
A
that
lot of
win-
3-point games. I mean, look, that's just the way it's been in the East. That's why at one point recently we were like every team is above Hockey 500, or the Bruins were 7-7. Now they're whatever they are, 9-7. So when you have a lot of overtime games, you have lots of points. As I maintain, the Lightning just have to focus. I would focus on playoff pace. And in this second 10-game segment, the Lightning are 3-1, which is excellent. That's good.
Yep.
Understanding they played Dallas and they had this 3-game road trip. And they got 6 points so far. They had to make up 2 because they had 10 at the end of the first 10-game segment. So let's see if they can keep it going. They can make up the 2 points that they weren't able to get in segment 1, but based on how they started in segment 1, getting to 10 was pretty impressive because they were 1-4-2 after 7
That's
games.
a good point.
So
Yeah.
look, if you can just take care of your own business, I still believe things will settle. Some teams are outkicking their coverage. I don't believe that we are going to see 16 teams in the East finishing with 82 or more points. 82 points or more, which is what you would have if you're at Hockey 500 or better. Some of these teams are going to start falling off. Or
that's fair.
we're just going to see fewer games in overtime. Like when the East is playing the East, which is usually what you have happen, then, not every game is going to go to overtime. It seems like just about every game in the East is going to overtime. I mean, Washington and Pittsburgh didn't. But in the Atlantic, a lot of games are going to overtime.
Yeah.
Montreal and New Jersey went to overtime. Boston and Ottawa went to overtime last night.
It's early.
It's early, right.
But there's Buffalo at the last place in the standings.
Well, but Buffalo was doing okay. I think Buffalo had gone a stretch of time where they'd played a bunch of overtime games in a row.
They did, yeah.
I think they were 4-0-3 in their last 7. Now they lost to St. Louis.
The Rangers haven't won at home.
That is really weird. I think they've been shut out like 4 times at home.
That's
too.
going to be an interesting team to watch. I know we're kind of getting off track a little bit with the Lightning.
Well, they're coming to
But
Tampa next week.
I don't know how good that team's going to be this year. I think you and I kind of hinted at that a little bit. Was it too much change?
Yeah.
Some good players left.
Yeah.
And you just wonder.
They have to mesh. And maybe it's too early. I really like Gavrikov as a defenseman, and he basically has replaced Keandre Miller, who's now in Carolina. We'll see. I mean, Fox played a lot with Ryan Lindgren, who they moved last year.
Yeah.
And Trouba, when Trouba was there, played with Miller. So that has totally gotten
Completely revamped.
Yeah. There's been major upheaval there. So Fox is now with Gavrikov. I don't know if they play together all the time, but that's, I think, who his partner has been. That would seem to be like a very effective pair to me. And you still have Zibanejad. You still have Panarin. Trocheck has been hurt, but I mean, he's still there. These are good players. Lafreniere has not gotten off to a good start, but I mean, he's been a good player. He's been an evolving player who has gotten better the last few years.
You know,
we'll see. I mean,
when I
maybe they're a team. They have a new head coach. You know, like it may just take a little time for it to all come together, or it won't. JT Miller is a great player. Like he is he's their captain. He's captain material. They have good players, but maybe that's not enough. I don't know.
I don't know. I think that's a good question. And you're right. Sometimes a new voice can help, with that. But my goodness, I think they had to start the season Connor Sherry on their third line. That was what are you doing here to a degree? Because we saw Sherry kind of struggle with the Lightning, and you were wondering is he done? But
Taylor Radish is there, another former Lightning. He's a high draft pick by the Lightning, but he has bounced around.
So the Lightning with that win, just right below the Flyers. If you're looking at that last wild card spot, but more importantly, a couple of points, from second place in the division.
I mean, at this point, it's just too early. There's too many teams bunched together. But let's see if the Lightning can keep, as we say, munching points, because they won 6 of their last 7. And now they do have a stretch. I know the Saturday game, Jim's right. Like the Saturday game is going to be a challenge. Long trip on Friday. Get ready. They're a good team. Washington is a good team. I mean, no game is easy in the NHL.
No, I mean,
but the Lightning have a little stretch here leading into Thanksgiving where they're mostly at home.
Yeah. Make up some games. I mean, what is it? November and December, a lot of games for the Lightning. So just you have an opportunity there to, make up some ground. And the games with Washington are always, I think, fun. I mean, you've got the Tom Wilson X Factor who's off to a good start. I was reading some comments. He's really, hoping to make the Olympic team this year. Yeah. And he's a unique guy. I mean, there's nobody quite like him in the NHL. And then Ovechkin just passed 900 goals. I mean, that's incredible.
Yeah.
So I think he only has a couple of goals this year. So
3.
Yeah, I mean, he'll be ready to rock and roll. I mean, he's always a threat against the Lightning. You mentioned the goaltending. They've gotten some good goaltending this year. That's a good team. I don't know if it's a Stanley Cup contending team. That's a good team. And the Lightning need to be ready, for that battle. This question comes from Dale. He said, guys, why do people always look at American Thanksgiving as the time to take a look at what you have when it comes to your team?
Well, I'll say up until recently, but the Blues in 2019 kind of blew this out of the water. Yeah. But for the longest time, there was the prevailing wisdom that the standings didn't change that much, actually, once you hit American Thanksgiving, which is the end of November, let's say. So that if you were pretty far out of a playoff spot, you had a lot of time. I mean, you still had 2/3 of the season left.
Yeah.
But history told us that most of the time those teams were not able to overcome even a 4-point deficit. Now the Blues, well after American Thanksgiving, were in last place in the entire NHL. And they turned it around. They had a great second half, and they ended up winning the Stanley Cup. That was in 2019. So they had a bad 2018,
right?
The second half of 2018. I think we're seeing less of that now. I think we're seeing more turbulence, if that's the right word, in the standings over the final 2/3 of the season. But I think that's where that came from. And following that, kind of like by American Thanksgiving, you kind of know where your team is at. So in other words, if you're in a playoff spot, that means you probably have a team that's going to make the playoffs. If you were out of a playoff spot by 4 points or more, you were going to have tough sledding, and maybe it wasn't in the cards for you that year. I don't think any GM really looks at it that way, but I think that's where that came from, Dale.
Yeah, and I also think, too, do you move that up a little bit, knowing that the parity in today's game, you mentioned the 3-point games.
Yeah.
Is that...
By up, you mean back?
Yeah. Yeah.
farther into the season.
Yeah, maybe. I don't. Who knows? But I do think if you're one of those teams who's really out of a playoff picture, 20 games into the season, that is a tough place to come back from.
Yeah. Number of teams you have
You
to
know?
jump over becomes a
It's-
problem because
yeah.
of the 3-point game element as part of that. Also, like, just generally in the first 10 games, things are haphazard. Right? Like, teams
They
are
are
trying to
different.
figure stuff out. I think you would like to believe that by 20 games or 25 games, you kind of have things settled down and you know what you are. Maybe it's a little bit that too.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think you're still trying to find. It's almost like preseason, but the games count. Your first 10 games, you just it's a little bit of an outlier because they always say offenses are a little bit ahead of the defenses early on, and that may be true. That may be true. So we'll see, how that plays out. Let me see if we have any more questions here.
Well, have you told us about Reef Rum? Yeah.
Oh man, I thought
You look like
You
you
are
might
like my
need some Reef Rum.
you are like my Jiminy Cricket. I gotta tell you that. You are.
Well, I'm
let
looking
me
at the
find it.
logo right there. So I'm like, has
Are
Greg read it?
No, I haven't. I maybe need some. I'm going to enjoy Reef from Smooth, Versatile, now pouring at Benchmark International Arena. Order a Tropical Wave or a Lightning Mule and taste why fans are switching. Reef Rum is a premium craft Florida local rum built on authenticity, quality, and easy drinkability. Ask for Reef Rum by name. Go Bolts. Enjoy responsibly. I didn't get a nap today, so I'm running.
This
on
is a
E.
long day for you,
It's
but
a
you have
long
no
day.
show as we are recording.
We will
I mean,
have
it's
no
Friday
show.
morning for you. It's almost
Yeah.
Friday morning for me, but you do not have a show
No,
to actually do on Friday.
I'll be up in about 3 hours.
Yeah. Well, thank you for staying up late. The other
no,
option
this is
was
good.
to get up early and do it Friday
Yeah,
morning,
Let's
but
just get it out. That's what I said.
Yeah.
Let's just knock it out. I'd rather have you with us doing the show, assuming we're all coherent and kind of go from there. But it was worth it because I think this was one of those games where I wasn't too sure how the Lightning would respond. And especially after the first period, you were kind of shaking your head like,
Yeah.
they just didn't have their legs.
we've
This doesn't
seen
look
games
good.
like final game of a road trip, weird travel, getting in late,
Yeah.
just like I don't even know
Yeah.
how to describe
Can
what
be a
we
dud.
saw in the first period. They just couldn't get out of their own way, and sometimes you can't snap out of that, which is why I give full credit and high marks to the James line because they were the line.
James King.
The James gang, sorry, to pull the Lightning out of that mess and get them snapped into gear. We've seen a lot of games over the years where the final game of a road trip starts badly and you just can't reel it in and it gets away from you. And that didn't happen.
Maybe it's not a coincidence, too, that it took a couple of young guys, maybe some fresh legs, too.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe, if you didn't have things going and you can rely on a couple of those guys to give you a little more juice, maybe there's something to that. By the way, my dad would be upset that I didn't reference the James Gang as one of Joe Walsh's bands that he performed.
Yes.
Remember him, legendary
I do
the
remember
Eagles.
Joe Walsh.
He was in the Eagles, but he was part of the
Yes.
James Gang, which was I don't know how long they were around, but pretty good. But I do think there's something to that because you can feed off that young energy in a lot of ways, and I think the Lightning did that to a degree. We'll call it last night, getting a couple of points against Vegas. So we'll have a show on Monday. I will see you at the rink on Saturday, Lightning and Caps.
Yes.
We'll see Phil and
Phil is doing TV pregame.
Oh, that's right. So we have to fill a little bit
He is
more?
going to be
No pun
arriving in the booth, and I predict right now he's going to complain about the elevator getting him there later than he would like.
He'll sit down, get his pen. Steve, you got to get his pen. He's
Yeah.
got his little routine.
He always brings you, fans don't know, he always brings you a little biscotti cookie.
He
I wonder if
does.
he's going to have that for you.
I'll ask him.
He may give it to Paul Kennedy. I don't know.
That's true. That's true. He may. He likes to give it to me.
Yeah.
I like that little. before
So
the game. It's good.
I don't know if they just wanted Phil or they were shorthanded. Steve Versing actually schedules that, but For whatever reason, Phil is doing the pregame.
Maybe his one appearance this year.
You know, kid, maybe if you do pretty well, we'll have you back.
David, I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
I don't want to do it. They asked me to do it, and I did it. You know. So, but we'll see.
It is very on brand for Phil though to roll into the booth as close to game time as possible.
Yes, it is.
So, I think he would probably prefer to get there
if he got
5
there
minutes before warm-ups as opposed to 5 minutes before face-off.
I don't blame him because if he gets there early, people are just going to want to constantly come up and talk to him.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they do. I mean, people are coming in when he's on the air. Phil, you know, and it's funny. But, you know, when you're a Hall of Famer, that's what happens.
Anyway, you and I will be there to hold down the fort. And
yeah,
Steve.
We will.
So
we'll break it down. Get some rest, safe travels back.
Yeah, you too.
And we will talk to you on Saturday.
Talk to you Saturday.
All right, thanks, Steve Versnick, for recording. We appreciate it. And everybody who stayed up with us to listen, we appreciate you guys. As always, we'll be with you on Monday in this setting for Power Lunch. I am Greg Linnelli, right here on Lightning Radio.